Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, that was it.
All right. Sorry about that.
So you want me to stay on? I'm staying on with you right now. Is that what I'm doing?
Yes. Yeah. I would hope so. Right.
Oh, let's run. Go. Do what you got to do. Let's go.
Okay. All right. So, one of the things that I've personally dealt with, and I see when I'm dealing with business owners and people of faith, sometimes they're afraid to admit when they're frustrated. They're afraid to really kind of say, wow, there's all these things out of my control. Because let's just face it, if you go after having a business, if you're a person of faith, you're kind of tough. You kind of got that moxie going on, and you kind of feel like you can handle anything that comes your way. Well, one of the things that I wanted to walk you through, as I said, is about adapting, especially with everything that we have going on this season. You may have a brick and mortar store that had to close. You know, you may be in a situation where you were a solopreneur, or you had a job and kind of a side hustle business, or you had employees that you had to let go. So the question tonight is, what do you do now? What do you do with how you feel about it? And then how do I get out of this space? Where do I go from here? So the first step on adapting or adapt is going to be to assess where you are, assess where you are emotionally, assess where you are in your finances, and even more importantly, in this season, people need to assess what their skill sets are. What do I bring to the table? What do I innately do without even thinking about it that I could use in the season to generate income? So I'm gonna pause, because you know me, Mark, I can just go do my thing.
So wait a minute. So all right. So this is good. All right. So you said to assess their skills. Why do I need to assess
Yeah.
skills right now? I mean,
Right. Well,
I got laid off because I was bad. I got laid off because people are, are getting infected. What I got to assess?
you need to assess your skills, because guess what? You can't control when they bring you back to that position. So what are you going to do? In many states, unemployment is limited. Even though they passed a bill that said you should get this check and this should happen, that can happen. What if it don't? Right? And we never thought that the whole world, we have an outbreak, right? So yeah, you need to assess what you have in the inventory of yourself, because that may open your eyes to a gift, talent, or ability that somebody is waiting for, and they're willing to write a check. So that's why I tell you to assess your skill set there.
Okay.
So step two, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm good. Go ahead.
Okay, step two is obviously the letter D, and this is where I want you to define. So many times when you find yourself in a season of change, you find yourself going through something that, has kind of taken you back for a minute. First of all, it's okay. It's okay. You know what I mean? You can put your cape down. It's okay to be like, okay, what just happened? Okay, did a nuclear bomb go off? Like, what just happened? So after you get over that, right, and you begin to say, yeah, you know what, I am a good speaker. Hey, I do like to write. Once you go ahead and define that skill set, now I want you to define not so much where you are, but where you want to go. And another way to say it is get your vision back, right? Begin to write out what you want your life to be, not so much what it is, but where you want it to go, because that's going to then give you something to kind of to measure with, to be able to make some motion forward. So I'll pause on that one, because I got a lot of space. I can do all my steps in like 5 minutes.
Well, no, we got more than 5 minutes to fill. No, so
Okay.
So let's go a little further with me. Go a little further with me on defining, because
Sure.
I spoke about this last night, and again, everything, as you know, kind of comes together, confirms, and runs on through.
All right.
About the why. You said trying to define it. You asked me to go
Yeah.
back and ask a tough question. I haven't been asked a tough question because there's so much been going on. I've never had a pause. So is this the best time to go and ask the question, because I got this pause? And what kind of questions I need to ask?
Okay, let's go. So
Come on,
let's get it. So here's the tea. You're gonna have to ask yourself some tough questions, especially if we're talking about defining your future, because oftentimes we define our goals based on our current situation, based on what we can do. And here's where faith gets to creep in. And this is why I love being a person of faith and business, because I get to leverage the best of both worlds. I get to now take the supernatural and bring it into the natural. Okay. And I begin to assess and be able to say, you know what? faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So I'm not going to base my goals off of something I know I can attain. I'm going to base my goals off the desires of my heart. So here are some questions that you can ask yourself to really get a true temperature of what you want. Whenever you begin to say, let's take the example, if you say, all right, I assessed everything. I'm a great book writer. I want to write a book. Okay. So you decide you want to write a book. The first question, and I love this technique, is to ask yourself why. And so you write down and you say, well, because I think I'd be good at it, and then you say why. And so it seems like it's really silly, but you would be astonished at what you really drill down to. You'll end up with the topic of the book, and you'll probably end up, I've done this exercise live with clients, and they start off saying, oh, I want to write a book about, I don't know, my experiences in college or whatever. But when you get all the way down to it, the reason why they really want to write the book is because they want to, as a child, they felt like they would never get that opportunity, or whatever the case may be. It ends up being a reason bigger than yourself. And that's what you need to really move the ball forward oftentimes, especially in a season of chaos like we are right now, because it's so easy to be distracted about what you see now and be focused on solving today's problem. But while you have this time, because you don't know when you're going to get it again, I really challenge you to define where you want to go. And sometimes that's very deep, because you have to reconcile the fact that there's dreams that you've always had that you didn't go after.
Well,
there's a list.
Yeah. Let me jump in, because you talk about bridging faith and was faith, and were we bridging faith and what?
Oh, when I was talking about taking the supernatural into the natural, or
you're talking about bridging. You're talking about that bridge, but what if my faith, what if the faith is a little raggedy? So
that's great. That's great.
But my faith is raggedy. Hold on, my faith is raggedy, and I'm trying to trust in myself, but myself is also raggedy. I can't get that going. So I'm raggedy, and my faith is raggedy. So I try to bring it together. I got a raggedy proposition and a raggedy product. So how can we get through? Because now when that raggedy connects, what I really have, I'm being funny, but the reality is I have super more doubt. I have super less faith, less trust, because I'm not strong on either side. So how do I reconcile that?
Well, I can only tell you through, because I've lived it several times. You're looking at somebody, when people say, tell your story, I'm like, which one you want? I got about a good 15 comeback stories. Which one you want? The one when I lost everything 4 times, the one when I was sick, and instead of pick one, right? So I can sit here and tell you, I just, as you know, was getting over the flu, but before that I had something else. It's just been a really rough season. And there's a scripture that I love to quote, because I've had to leverage it. Yes, the one that runs the prayer cast, the one that loves Jesus, filled up with the Holy Ghost. Yes, that person had to use a scripture that talks about the Spirit making intercession for us when we don't know what to say, when we don't know what to pray, how he can interpret our utterings and groanings. And that's where sheer brute honesty just has to come into place, and vulnerability. And so I don't know, were we taught wrong, or people just didn't understand? But he loves that part of us, because he created us to have a need for him. And the reason, and so I have no problem saying, God, check it out. My tank is on negative. You know how you ride to work and you think you can make it one more time on fumes, and you almost get to the exit, and it just literally happened to me. Literally just I had to try to get to the side of the road, right? Literally that level of faith, that level of spirituality, I have nothing to give. But if you can at least just cry out to God and just say, hey, look, this is where I am. Now some practical things that I do besides that, now I'm a little bit radical, but I will just, find a YouTube playlist with some worship music, just let it play. Sometimes you have the attitude and you really don't want to hear that right now. I'm just keeping 100, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you're just in a place where it's I know that's what I should be doing, but I'm feeling some kind of way about my situation, But if I found out, in my experience, if I just admit to God where I'm at and say, I need you to help me get out of this place, and then I take action, and that's with anything, then is where I begin to take little baby steps towards him, and he just opens the floodgates towards me. And that's been my personal experience. And next thing you know how this is, you just need a mustard seed of faith. You take that little bit of raggedy faith and you match it with action. And that's where the supernatural meets the natural. So the little bit of thing that you had, the little talent, little idea you had, you think you just go into a meeting, but you run into somebody in the Starbucks line that says, hey, I need exactly what you got. I mean, it just begins to spiral out of control. And that's what I love about, marrying and being able to leverage your faith, but yet still teach people practical corporate boardroom secrets that I've been executing for 20 years all over the globe that they need to be able to use in their business. It ain't going to grow just by you praying. You got to get up off your knees after you pray and put in some work. And that's another gap. But go ahead. That ain't a part of the DAP list, Mark. That is
I understand. That's not part of the DAP list. I get it. All right, go ahead. Go on with your next step.
Okay. Where am I? Okay. So I said define. I said define and then adjust. Once you start setting new standards for yourself, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to go. So I'll take myself, for example, and just something practical about losing weight and tightening up. I made a post the other week. I had to joke about I had to make up with my personal meal prep chef. We had a little falling out around the holiday. And I tried to do it on my own. But finally, even though she was wrong, but finally, I just said, you know what, Kira, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Your goal needs to happen.
Why you falling out with the doggone chef? With tomato. What's been given to you?
Do you really want to know?
Problem. Carry on. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, bad customer service. I'm just fanatical about customer service.
All right, go ahead.
So that's what it was. But anyway, but my point is that when I defined for myself that I really want to get, I'm hitting a big birthday milestone this year. I'm like, I really want to, I'm only like 15 pounds away. I just really want to nail this. I was like, I've got to make some adjustments. And within that adjustments, I'm going to give you another baby A, which is action. And that's the part we often don't take. We define the list. We even begin to make some baby adjustments, realizing like, okay, I ain't gonna buy no snacks. I'm gonna make sure I got the right snacks, but then just actually taking the action, actually coming up with a plan when you define it and then executing on it. And I'm still trying to navigate why a lot of people get stuck there. For different people, it's for different reasons. Some it's fear of failure. Some it's fear of success. It could be multiple different reasons, but really adjustment and action, I'm giving you a double A, because even if you buy a plant, you adjust your life. Now you got to water the little plant. You didn't have to do that before. And so people want to make these big goals and dreams, but they don't want to make the adjustments that it's going to take to make it actually come into fruition.
I mean, to run your point a little further, this whole, as Kendra said the other night, this whole pit stop is an adjustment.
Right.
We're not just doing an adjustment. We were forced to make an adjustment. Oftentimes, I feel like that's the only time we're going to get it is when we're forced to. We have to make the adjustment. So while we're already uncomfortable, let's just go ahead and do the rest of the uncomfortable stuff while we're already uncomfortable.
And I love that, because that's the T, right? Like, even if you think about your own personal journey, even in your faith and even in your business, oftentimes we got raggedy spreadsheets and systems and everything, but it's working. You know what I'm saying? It's working. So it's like, yeah, I need to get to that. Yeah, I need to do that. But what I'm doing right now is working. And when I get a couple little minutes, then I'm going to automate this and I'm going to do that. And I'm talking about myself too, and all of that stuff. But what ends up happening is something falls through the gaps. Or something goes left and you're like, oh, snap, I can't have this. I got to automate this, or I got to make this move. And so you're absolutely right. That is really the key as to when we actually do something. And even, like I said, even in your personal or spiritual journey as well, it's the same thing. Oftentimes, you don't usually see people at the church house saying, hey, just got a new job, just all this great stuff is happening. Usually something traumatic that jumped off, okay? They didn't have a reckoning of some kind. And now they're coming to a place of saying, let me investigate this situation with my faith just a little bit more.
Okay. All right. On to point four.
Okay. So point four is really making sure that you to set yourself up for success. So there's, it's going to be a little couple sub bullets under this, but how do you set yourself up for success? Okay, I'm taking action. How do I set myself up for success? And this is really where you need to define some metrics, right? How do you know what you're going after is working, right? How are you going to measure that you're being successful at what you defined, right? So this is where you've got to really sit down. I like to call it stats, but so you relate to that as a sports guy, right? Stats, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
And I kind of am, but I'm like mostly not like a sports person. So help me out here. But I mean, don't they usually say something like, um, this percentage of home runs hit in this amount of time? I mean, it's the
Yes.
same kind of concept, right? It's basically saying, all right, when I define this, I said to myself, I'm going to write 2 days a week, And so now I'm down here and I'm measuring that. Did I write 2 days a week? Well, how are you going to measure that? Okay, well, I'm going to get a calendar out and I'm going to mark every day that I write, right? Or pick, you know what I mean? Like, you have to set yourself up for success, or you're just going to stay stuck back in that halfway between define, adjust, and action. You're just going to kind of swirl around in there somewhere, unless you begin to give yourself some stats to go by. And that's also motivation, because think about it. Anytime you kind of start seeing yourself get some momentum, you start getting a little hype. Don't go start working out and see something tighten up a quarter of an inch. Okay, you'll be like, oh, you
Right.
start getting into it, right?
Right. You should say you're walking out. Mark, you been working out? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and plate up another plate. Oh,
right? That's just human nature. Go ahead. Were you gonna say something?
I'm here laughing at you. I'm setting up for success here on step 4. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. But last but not least, I like to go back to end it with a T, which is team. You gotta have a team, and not just a team that and I get into this and I help people learn how to delegate. I help people build remote teams around the world, less expensively, all of these things. But people often forget the team of support in your personal life, right? So you have the team that you actually have or leverage to execute the work. And I know people are about to say, well, what if you don't have the money? And I'll address that in 1 second. But don't forget about the team of your support system. I think I know and have experienced that sometimes we go to the wrong people about the wrong stuff, right? So we want to go to auntie and uncle and our best friend, or the dude that's cutting our hair at the barbershop, or our hairdresser, and talk about this decision or that decision, because they're good people and they're savvy or whatever. However, they don't have your perspective. They don't have your goals. They don't have that kind of experience to be able to really guide you in that area. So what ends up happening is oftentimes we're getting soothed or coaxed into or influenced by certain decisions that really they don't really have the experience to speak on, right? So it's okay to really get in these groups and get coaches and get mentors and get people who have gone before in certain areas that you trust, and you could just say, look, this is how I'm feeling, this is what it is, this is what I'm trying to have to do, what's the quickest, fastest way to get there, and they can really do that for you, besides kind of just hoping that, when you run into your cousin, he gonna tell you the right thing to do.
Okay, so stop, pause. So why is it that we always deflect to the people around us that aren't, I'm gonna call them qualified? Not saying they've been to school, have no degree, they're not qualified. Right. Why do we default to them?
I think it's for 2 reasons. I think the first reason is easy access and you trust them, right? So it's just easy, right? It's comfortable, right? And you trust them, right? And oftentimes you have this intimacy with them, and so they've either led you the right way before, and you feel like you could, they have your best interest at heart, right? I think the second reason is, and why I'm really working on this community that I'm building out, is because as leaders, who do I run to? Remember that song, Who Do I Run To? Right? What's that song, Who Do I Run To? Right? Who do you run to? Like, who do you tell? Who do you say, I've got to lay off somebody and they're all excellent? How do I choose? Who do you go to and say, hey, I don't know if I'm going to make payroll, and you know what I mean? Like, who who do you run, who do you go to that's gonna keep your not secret, but keep your confidence,
Right.
and yet be able to identify with your pain points? Because I don't know, I just had a conversation with a billionaire, literally, that has not been in a situation in earlier businesses where they weren't able to make payroll. Like, there's nobody that's sitting at the top that has not been in a low place. And so that, I think, is the reason, is that one, they might have access to those individuals, or two, they might feel as though, can I be vulnerable, and will you still respect me as a leader if I show you where I have some pain points? Right. And that's what I want to change. That's what I want to change.
That's a good conversation point, because if you're having your, for the entrepreneur realm or whatnot, if you are hanging out with people who are not entrepreneurs, you're talking to the workforce. So if you're talking
with a whole different mindset,
look, they got a check mindset. Like, where's my check? You talk to an entrepreneur, they're like, how much I'm gonna make this payroll? You know,
right.
I'm dealing with this right now, as you know, all the things is popping around me, and I'm
right.
Like, we need to hurry up. I need to hear from so and so we can make it payroll, because they're not going to care. They're not going to care that you can't make it. They're gonna understand, well, you always made it. Well, we gotta make some adjustments if we all want to have something to come back to when this is over.
Right.
And everybody can't have that conversation with everybody. They're not gonna understand. So if you're not hanging out with other entrepreneurs, other speakers, other singers, other painters, other drivers, other somebody who can get what you're talking about,
right,
to have a frank and earnest conversation, because 8 out of 10 times either they've been there, or they're hitting to go there, or as my pastor say, they just left there. So so all three of those, somebody's in all three of those positions, and that helps with the team. You know, we have mentors or whatever, but people we can talk to who can say, listen, this is what's going down. How can I help? Give me some insight. And them not go, how did you get there?
Like,
oh dear
I
God.
thought you was balling. Wasn't you on the gram just in the Bahamas?
Exactly. Right. No, that was from 4 weeks ago when I posted that. But
that was before the travel ban. Okay.
That was before the travel ban. You was just in the Bahamas. No. I was bored because I'm home from the travel ban and found some old pictures at the post. So don't judge me. Don't come to me.
Right. Look, because I know your tea too. Don't make me pull it out. Okay. I got a whole set of tea bags, you know? Right.
But I think that's a great point that you have, to have that team around you and take time to do it. I know on this, because this conversation is totally different. Marvin Powell is on the line, and because I'm on Zoom, I can't bring him on. But dude is lit. He is the lit man, business person. We've had conversations way back with the cookie business. We sat across and had a conversation with Marvin, and he was in the financial advisor then. Now he's a business all grown and big up, whatever.
Right.
I'm sitting across from the table in my little cookie business. I was like, dude, I don't even understand what's going on. He was like, Mark, do this, and this. Have you done? No. But here's someone who was ready to communicate.
Yes.
Who became part of my team. And that was 15 years ago. And he is still on the team. When I need Marvin, me and Marvin will have a conversation. He's taking a phone call. That's the kind of team you need to build.
Yes.
Go somewhere. Whether it's even in your career. You speak to entrepreneurs, but you're also a careerist as well.
Yeah.
How do you build that team and that network on the job? That's a great question.
Well, one thing I think and especially when you talk about, I know we're talking about team, and people are gonna probably raise their eyebrow when they hear this, but everything is sales. I don't care. Even if you are trying to build a relationship with someone, you are still in that process of building that relationship, but you're kind of selling yourself a little bit, right? As to why you would bring value to their life. Because if it's true friendship, right, they're gonna invest time. Okay, and you're gonna invest time. So it's got to be a win-win, or somebody gonna fall out. It ain't gonna last. I mean, let's just be honest, right? And so whenever the second thing I would say as a careerist is that I've always treated my career like a business. I've never looked at it as if, oh, this is, okay, this is my little role. Don't ask me to do 2 seconds more than what you asked me to do. No, I was always the person that would do stuff other people don't want to do, willing to learn extra skill sets, because that then put me in a position to have conversations with different people, get exposed to different levels of leadership. You never know that one little thing that's going to open the door to many, many things. So that's the other thing I tell careers to do. Quit looking at your job like a job. You can move that ladder just like you can grow a business. You know what I mean? You can navigate. You ain't got to stay where you at. So make sure you leverage opportunities and relationships. And I would say the last thing to do, people laugh at me, but being in program management, like I said, managing, you got to motivate people who don't report to you directly, right? So you got to get them to care. They got 15 projects, but you got to get them to care about yours. How do you do that? How you do that is care about what they care about. It's kind of a learned skill, but being able to kind of take time to care for 5 minutes and see what motivates this person. What do they care about? Look at their desk. Do you have pictures of their family? You might not really care that deeply about what happened over the weekend and the kids in the basketball camp, but maybe make a comment about it. You know, build that rapport, right? Look around them and see what they care about and use that as a tool and a gateway to build relationship with people. Literally, that's what I've done the majority of my life. Yeah.
Wow. That's what's up. So team is that. So that's 5 points. I was on 5.
That's all. Did I wear you out? I mean,
I think high energy. I got to catch my breath. But anyway,
I'm only high energy on camera and on stage. Look, if you can see the bottom of my Snuggie pants, you.
All right, so run your points again. The first point was adapt.
Yeah.
No, was that the acronym? Adapt is the acronym.
No, adapt was the acronym. I'm up here agreeing with you talking about, yeah. Adapt was the acronym. So first thing you want to do is assess, right?
Yes.
So you want to assess where you are, assess your skill sets. The second thing you want to do is define, not so much define where you are and define your goals by where you are, but define where you want to go. Basically, write the vision, make it plain, if we want to put it in another language. The third thing is kind of like a double A that I gave you, which is to adjust. You're going to have to make adjustments. You're going to have to make some changes. You know, you can't. And if you're married or if you're with someone, you can't just make some big decisions without talking to your significant other, because there's going to be adjustments in the home. If you got kids, like, you can't say, make this big goal for yourself and put yourself under all this pressure and not realize that, hey, it might take me longer to get there because I have these responsibilities. That was something I wanted to say earlier. So don't put too much pressure on yourself in that define, adjust stage. Give yourself some time to make the adjustments to, you know, as we later talk about, set yourself up for success. That bottom A of that is actually take action. Do something, right? Even if it's a baby step, even if it's just, you know, getting the laptop out and getting to the Word document. Okay, the page might be blank, but you got that far, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? You might not write nothing tonight, but at least you got that far. You know, you just do something, okay? And then you want to get to S, which is stats, and set yourself up for success. So this is where you want to make sure that you have some measurable things that you can look at to say, am I moving forward? Am I moving the ball forward? Am I making any progress on what I defined earlier? And then last but not least, have a team, not just a team that you have working for you or with you. And there's just a point there I wanted to make about team. I'm sorry, did I miss? Which was about people who may not have the resources to hire a team. One tip that I like to give them is barter. Barter never goes out of style, okay? I know people that I've given them, they've taught me how to create a podcast or set it up for me, and I've done executive coaching for them, right? Like, whatever, you know, barter, right? If there's things that you need, that's why you need a network of people that you can say, hey, or I've, you know, there's people that I've given mindset coaching to, or that's given it to me when I needed it, right? Like, you know, you just barter for things that you may not have the money for, right? And then last but not least is your team of support. Having people around you that you can be vulnerable with, that you can, and be careful with that now. Be careful with that. Discern, you know, what that's all about, right? Because the frenemies are real, trust me. But develop a team that you can confide in that's qualified to speak to that area. Maybe you don't talk to your financial advisor about your relationships, you know, maybe go to your relationship coach friend, you know, like, make sure you are talking to qualified people about the decisions that you have to make in your life. And I feel like taking these steps will be practical and really help you to adapt in a season of change, whether it's a season that we're in now or anytime you really want to make a decision.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Kara, I thank you for coming on and dropping these 5 points on and having a conversation about it. These are some great things, and definitely ties in. There's a confirmation. I keep saying it. I don't plan these things out. I just
wow.
I know, and people get mad. What's the thing? I say, I don't know. They're gonna talk about something. Because at the end of the day, I'm gonna ask you a question about what is on my heart, and my mind is people at home trying to make these changes. People at home are fearful, even though they're getting a check. They're still worried about what's going on. Now they don't want to touch nobody. They want to breathe.
Right.
Everybody's, you know what I'm saying? Some of this stuff is legit and concerning, as it should be. We take all proper steps. But when it's over, are you going to be ready to go? If you put this into a concept of a relay race, right? Isha was just on her son was talking about track. This just jumped back in my mind. You know, the 4x100 next to the 100 is one of the sexiest races in sport because it's so quick. The 100-yard dash is where the superstars are. You don't hear about the long distance run. Oh, girl, look at him. He runs the 1500.
Right.
He runs the 100, the 440. You know, they run those.
Right.
So the 4x100 is like the quickest, sexiest race around. And you're not ready. You come out the blocks. If you're late, you're behind. But more importantly, if you get out of the blocks and you're running, and the next person is not in the zone and don't get the baton by the end of the zone, it's a wrap. You know, you stumble around trying to stagger around, whatever. So basically what I'm saying is, in this moment, while the racers are getting in the block to get ready to go, you need to position yourself. You need to adapt, redefine some stuff and adjust some stuff and look at your stats and reassess your team. Because when the baton comes to you and they holler, get, and you talking about some, so wait, I'm not ready. Race over. This is over.
It's a wrap.
Right.
And that is so powerful because when we come as a country, really as a world, and being in technology almost 20 years, as a world, when we come out of this, the world is different because there's going to be socioeconomic norms that have shifted. And even everybody's screaming about they're going to be ready to get out the house, it's going to be a minute. Because you know what I'm saying? It's going to be a minute. There's going to be people going to be used to, and hopefully there's been some positive changes of families getting back together and people having real conversations. And, you know, those are some things that are going to happen. But there's going to be some changes. I know even in the tech space and a lot of our work is offshore, and we've had to shut down, you know, half of the technology departments in places because it's all offshore. So what does that mean now? Do we bring jobs back to you? I mean, there's just all kind of implications from here. So I would say this is a time to go back and, like I said, and assess your skills because, hey, maybe you need to get into a new field. Maybe you need to take this time to go to school. Maybe you need to up your, you know, you might not want to be a business owner, but maybe you need to up your income potential in this new economy and new world. So yeah, you're on point.
So since we're being transparent, nobody on but me and you. So all of a sudden,
was that bad?
No, I'm kidding. People watching. All of a sudden, so I do the Zoom, right? If I get one more person to ask me, hey, how can I, like I'm an expert. If you knew what happened to me on Saturday, if you knew what happened to me on Sunday morning before I got on television, if you knew what happened to me on Monday,
right?
I ain't nobody's expert, but I know more than you. So I'm gonna coach you up to this moment and these multi-screens. Look, everybody I've dealt with except for you, that's a real set behind you, has these doggone green screens. My tail is like, I want a green screen. So what was I doing today? I was assessing my skills and making my adjustments. I was on Zoom. How do you do green screen? Okay, I got one too. I have a green screen. I have a green screen. So next time you see me next week, I'm gonna probably look like I'm in somebody's beach somewhere. But you gotta assess and change, get your skill set up because right now the Zoom thing and conference view is where it was for certain markets, coaching, speaking, private rooms, training. Now all of a sudden it's like you better be here or you are not going to be coming out of that zone. You're not going to come out with the stick, with the steps and the momentum to get you to the next change. The next
and the pivot, you know, like that's the people that can sense. I always say there's a miracle in the mess, you know, because if you wasn't in a mess, you wouldn't need a miracle, right? You know, if everything was rosy, you wouldn't be thinking about no miracle. You know, you need a miracle because it's a mess, right? So that's kind of like this whole situation. Again, and I don't want to give people the impression that, just lastly, I don't want to give people the impression that there's something wrong with you if you feel some kind of way about what happened to you or what's happening in the world, or you ain't on top of your game, you ain't this, you ain't that, because you feel some kind of way. I want to make sure that I make that clear. It's okay to acknowledge how you feel. We're humans, but acknowledge that feelings change. You could be all deep and ready to cry one minute, see a meme on Facebook and crack up the next minute. Like, feelings change, right? So don't let our feelings drive our function, right? Be able to acknowledge this is how I feel, but I'm still going to go through these steps to adapt and change my future.
But that's a great point, and that's what needs to be said too. None of this is about how easy it is and what's I'll probably no. It's gonna take some work.
Yeah.
While we're trying to adjust our emotional feelings of the unknown and the fear of what's next, and what's happening, and I'm next, and all of a sudden your circle of people who are catching this thing is getting closer and closer and closer until it may be you. You may be
right.
me. I may have, who knows? But we do know, as we shift gears, who is in control.
Come on.
We do know who has the ultimate power. And as my mama likes to say, God is never taken by surprise. So if your faith is now not as raggedy as it was at the beginning of this conversation, it's a little stronger than your faith. And again, we're not talking about being Pollyannic. We're not talking about being just downright ignorant about stuff. Talking about understanding that there's things bigger than you that are out of your control.
Yes. Yes.
And they're out of your control, but not out of God's control. And since God is taking care of his business, that should free me up to take care of the business he's been allowing me to go do. Because if I'm not allowing me to go do, when that moment comes, I'm still not going to be able to do my business. Which then ultimately does not reflect into the person who gave it to me in the first place.
And that, if I could say one more thing, that, my friend, is probably, if people could get that in their spirits, what you just said, if people could really get the fact that I don't put my faith in what I want to happen. I don't put my faith in the outcome that I desire, okay? Because that may fail you. Things might not turn out the way that you hope for. But I put my faith in God, right? That no matter whether things go left or go right, or I got to start again, or things are going great, he, as you said, is in control. So that's where I have to anchor my faith, because he doesn't move. I can anchor there. But all this other stuff that's swirling around us, we can't anchor on that. We can't anchor on the job. We can't anchor on our pastor. We can't anchor on that's movable, right? You got to put your soul and anchor on what you can trust. And if anybody is struggling with that, as I opened up talking about silent frustration, like I have done, I'm not talking about something I heard, I'm talking about something I lived. If you ever find yourself in that place, if you just are honest about where you are, he will come there and meet you and comfort you. And so that, I'm gonna leave that there, because you know how I get down. So I'm gonna leave it alone. But
you first started patting on, come on, church. So as I like to say, somebody should be shouting right about now.
I don't know when it ends, so I'm just
when I press this button, that's when it ends. Haha. All right, y'all, look,